To the uninitiated, reviewing Planet Smashers and Alien Brigade together may seem sort of odd. There are two games that don't seem to share much in common. One, in being Planet Smashers, is a shoot-'em-up with a few interesting and unique systems to its name. Alien Brigade, on the other hand, is a light gun shooter that is 100% controller compatible, where you must defend the Earth against an alien invasion with a heavy trigger finger and pinpoint accuracy. But the truth is, these games are intertwined closely in regards to their story. The games are both prequels and sequels to one another, and each mentions the other in their endings. So, with these games being one side of the same coin, it only makes sense to look at one right after the other. So let's find out if this is a duo of games worth sinking your hard-earned money into, or if there are adventures that are better off experiencing through videos like this one. And we're going to start with Planet Smashers. But first, be sure to leave a like if you enjoy the video, and subscribe for more content just like this. I cover everything Atari on the channel, so subscribe, and check out all the other content we have to offer. Okay, enough dilly-dallying, let's get into the reviews. First up, we have Planet Smashers, and this finally finishes our look at all the 7800 shoot-'em-ups to this point, prompted by the announcement of Tiger Heli. Planet Smashers was released in 1990, and was developed by DataFast and published by Atari Corp. It was a very late release for the console, and like much of the other late-release 7800 games, this one is quite a bit more complex and ambitious than the very early games. You pilot a spaceship and must take aim at several enemy crafts, drones, asteroids, and many other targets as you attempt to break the alien code and face off against ever-increasingly large motherships. There are several unique ideas here, and that's as good of a place to start as any when talking about Planet Smashers. First, let's jump into the codes. There's a certain alien spaceship that will always leave behind an item, either in the form of a cloaking device, a shield, improved weaponry, or colored ovals. These colored ovals can be shot to cycle between purple, green, yellow, blue, and red. Each level requires you to find the correct combination of colors in the correct order. That way you can summon the mothership of that level. If you pick up a color that's in the code but not the one you need next, it will flash in its proper place at the bottom of the screen. I actually find this kind of charming, and it makes Planet Smashers stand out, but it can also be annoying later on, when you have the rapid-fire projectiles. When trying to cycle colors, you can easily hit the orb too many times, and result in picking up the wrong color. This, well, it can be frustrating, but it takes a little while to get to that point. The item pickups here work great too. The shield does what you would think it does, and allows you to take several hits. This is a must if the Earth shield depletes, as you'll get an automatic game over if you die when this happens. The cloaking device is wonderful, and a must-have for certain bosses in my opinion. It makes your ship invisible, and the enemies will not be able to detect you, and thus either not shoot at you at all, or just shoot randomly. The weapon orbs can improve your firepower several times over, and these are a must if you want to complete the game. If you die, then the game will reduce your firepower by a couple levels, but it's also easier to stay alive with the better weapons, so it's a nice give and take. Finally, you have an extra life, but they made this pickup sort of a gamble. It will switch between a skull and a spaceship icon, so you'll only ever want to touch it when you're sure it's going to be the ship icon. I mentioned the Earth shields, and this is another neat effect of Planet Smashers. So you can't let any enemies get past you, or they'll attack the Earth and destroy some of its shields. If you die, then a wave of enemies will fly by you, and make it to the Earth and deplete a large portion of the shields. The same thing happens with the level bosses. So in essence, you either win or lose. You don't get another chance to fight them in the same playthrough. And you take a massive penalty if you lose, in the sense that the Earth shields will be depleted by, well, quite a bit. It's a very interesting way of doing things, and again, this element adds some depth that other early shooters just didn't have. And I feel that they are fun additions at best and a minor annoyance at worst. I personally like these things, and I don't see how they would detract from the game very much for anybody. Well, losing when you have a massive inventory of lives really sucks, but if you memorize the codes and keep the enemies in front of you, it's really not that big of a deal. So I love the concepts and ideas implemented in Planet Smashers, and it plays really well too. Button presses are responsive, and you move quick enough to be able to take care of all the things on the screen. But the graphics and sound, well, they really leave a lot to be desired in my opinion. Now the graphics aren't bad, but they just feel generic in my opinion. None of it has much personality, and the game feels like it lacks a visual identity. Which is a shame because it does have an identity. It's just in the form of unique gameplay elements and not in the visuals and presentation. Now that's not to say everything is bad. I do like the large earth blowing up when you fail, and I actually really enjoy the ending that I won't spoil here. Side note, but why do people get mad when you spoil endings to these games anyway? They're usually just a congratulations screen and, well, that's it. Oh well. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the graphics are easy to read, but really nothing special. But it's the sound where Planet Smashers really lets me down personally. This game is just awful to listen to. Your bullets are ear-piercing when they fire from the front of your ship, and that's the sound that you'll be listening to 90% of the time. The explosions are fine, most of the other sounds and tunes are pretty good, but the bullet noise, ugh, I just hate it. If Planet Smashers ever sees a 7800 Plus release, and I hope it does, then they really need to touch up the sound. Even if you just have an option for original sound, no sound, and maybe some enhanced audio, well, that would be enough. Or maybe just the option to turn the sound off, I don't know. But anyway, I think that's all for the main points about Planet Smashers. Since this is a double review, I don't want to spend time in the pros and cons section. So, let's just jump into the score. After everything we talked about with the game, I'm going to give it 3 Proline controllers out of 5. It's a pretty good playing game with some very notable flaws. The visuals and sound really hurt the experience, especially because it's a unique gameplay experience otherwise. I think I like Xevious much more, but you can't go wrong with this one if you find it for a decent price. But that's enough of Planet Smashers. Let's get into its sequel, prequel. Well, let's get into its sister game, Alien Brigade. Alien Brigade was programmed by Ken Grant for Sculptured Software and published by Atari Corp. in 1990. It's an on-rail shooting game, most often compared to Operation Wolf on the Nintendo Entertainment System. In Alien Brigade, you shoot slimy, dirty aliens in an attempt to save the world from an incoming invasion. It's a pretty common affair for early video games and bad sci-fi movies. But these sort of things have always had their charms, and Alien Brigade is no different. You can play it with either a light gun or a standard controller. But no, if you want to play with a light gun, you'll need a CRT TV and original hardware. Right now, there is no way to do so with the 2600 and 7800 Plus, thanks to the HDMI out. And I personally feel that this game is most fun with the XEGS light gun in hand, or with the Mega 78 adapter and a Sega phaser for that matter. I actually find the phaser to be more accurate, but that's neither here nor there. Both Planet Smashers and Alien Brigade is Plus console compatible, but not if you want to use the light gun in this particular game. Alien Brigade features 5 levels, and they move at a pretty brisk clip. The game doesn't take long at all to finish, but it's fairly challenging to do so. It took me a fair number of tries before I finally saw the ending to this one, and there are some cool elements to Alien Brigade. At the beginning of every level, you'll notice a green box in the upper left corner blinking. If you shoot this, you can actually talk with your commanding officer and get a mission briefing of sorts. While this doesn't really do anything other than provide a bit of story, I still find it infinitely charming. You then take aim against green aliens of several different varieties, mind-melded soldiers, helicopters, divers, tanks, submarines, and a ton of other enemy variants. You'll also have several hostages in each level to rescue, and you can identify them because they don't wear shirts. Like, ever. It's well known that when you become a hostage, your shirt is forfeit. And so it is in Alien Brigade. You don't want to shoot too many of these hostages, because it'll lower your score, and at certain points it might cause a game over. For example, at the end of the first level, the helicopter that comes down is there to collect hostages who are running out of a background building. But it looks just like every other helicopter you've been blowing up to this point. So, it's only natural to want to blow that sucker to bits. But in this one case, you don't want to, and it's just really confusing and kinda sucks the fun out of it. This does add a bit of a cinematic layer to the game, however. I'll give it that. The first two levels look identical, with one being a military base and the other being a South American town. But then you find yourself underwater, inside a cave, and finally on top of a mountain. The variety is decent, but I would have liked to have seen more levels and longevity to the game. The replay value is definitely lesser than Planet Smashers, in my opinion. But the presentation is much improved, so I guess it's a give and take. You start the game with a pistol, but you can get several gun upgrades and grenades, which is really nice. The weapons all feel very accurate and fire quickly, with the exception of the underwater stages. Here, you only have the spear gun, and it's just slow to fire and makes it hard to react. It bogs the game down, and I wish they would have just made up some waterproof guns or something. Still, outside of a few oddities like the helicopter I mentioned before and this spear gun, the game is mostly fun and fast-paced, and it plays well, even if it's a short adventure. But unlike Planet Smashers, I think the sounds and graphics are great here. The visuals range from messy-looking pixels in the very far background to really detailed enemies that pop up right in front of your face. Now, I've heard people complain in the past that we're fighting aliens and human soldiers, but it's explained in the mission briefings. The aliens are melding their minds to human beings and taking over their bodies. Anyway, it all looks really good, with the exception of some of the levels looking similar. The audio is what you would expect, lots of gunshots, explosions, and vehicles pushing around. But it works for the game, and somehow the TIA manages it all, without making my ears bleed. Alien Brigade is going to be an acquired taste, I think, especially for the outrageous asking price on eBay. Being a late release game on the 7800, well, it's not very widely available. And you'll have to spend somewhere between $150 to $300. And if that's what you pay, well, you're going to be sorely disappointed. The game would be well worth between $20 to $50 in my opinion. It's short, with some really skilled gamers probably completing it in about 20 minutes or so. But it's a game with replay value for people who enjoy the subject matter and the light gun style of gameplay. So with that said, I think I'm going to give Alien Brigade on the Atari 7800 Pro system 3 Proline controllers out of 5. If the game had some more meat on its bones, I would gladly raise the score. But as it is, Alien Brigade has little substance, but it's still stupid fun for you and a buddy on the weekends, especially with a couple of light guns and a few libations. But there you have it, 2 sister games that were late releases on the Atari 7800. You've heard what I had to say, but now I want to hear from all of you. What do you think about Planet Smashers or Alien Brigade? Do you enjoy them? Do you hate them? What do you think of my scores? Do you think they were correct? Let me know about all this and anything else about the games in the comments down below. And please, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Just doing those 2 things helps me out so much more than I could ever tell you. And check out my other videos right here on the Atari Network. I recently reviewed Xevious for the 7800, talked about the new games that were announced with Vinny and the GOAT Robert DeCrescenzo, and I even had a guy on to help explain how Atari 2600 games work. I've been the 7800 Pro Gamer, a man who battled a bunch of aliens on Earth and then shot into space and fought them there too, then came back to Earth and fought them there again, and then went back to space, and then came back to Earth and then went back to space. Well, you get the idea. Anyway, thanks for watching, and remember to stay classy, Atarians.